three top things. I asked real estate agents in both survey, in person, kind of live, the simple question, why'd you get into this business? You know, what was the first thing you did, whether you're part-time, full-time, call yourself full-time, why'd you get into it? That being said, we've got a bunch of answers that came through. A lot of those answers I think were fluffy. Couldn't seem to get the real answer, so I would love to hear some of yours to understand why you're here, why you're not accomplishing what you're accomplishing. How do we actually do that? Top 3 reasons I will get from most people, and I've got them from the survey I did. And by the way, for my title and mortgage friends and clients, by the end of this week or into next week, I'll have a survey out to you guys for the title industry and for the mortgage industry with the same question. So top 3, freedom to have a flex schedule, help people buy their dream home, bull, my opinion, bull, make a lot of money. And I think a lot of us got into it for the simple reason is we thought we were going to make a lot of money. We think real estate's a big, easier sale process for some reason. From the outside world, we think, hey, 6% commission is going to be a lot of money real quick. And how hard could it be? I have a lot of friends and family, and they don't understand the work that gets involved. And I even had number 4, which I think was also very fluffy. I love real estate and I love homes. It's crap. I mean, we might love the product, but at the end of the day, some of us that are making a living at this. Now, if it's a hobby for you, part-time, you're semi-retired, God bless you, enjoy what you do. If you're making a living at this, let me get out of there. If you're making a living at this and providing for your family and actually really want to retire and do something, you need to kind of get something straight. First things first is your flex schedule. I think that's the biggest challenge we have. I think the biggest problem in real estate isn't technology, isn't marketing, isn't anything to do with that process. I think the biggest challenge in real estate is right between your ears. It's the motivation to do the right activities, to get up and go to work, not just saying I'm going to run. I run into people all the time. I showed buyers homes for 6 hours today, and I did a broker's lunch for 3 hours. I'm super busy. That's 9 hours, but you didn't really make any money. And I'm not saying they won't turn into money, but being busy doesn't mean successful in this business. Being busy, all the time I hear agents, oh, I'm so busy, but are you actually making money? Are you doing the right activities? So that being said, I think one of the funniest comments I heard came from our friend, and many of you listen to him, Gary V. He just pretty much says straight out, bold and brash will stand up on stage and say, you're going to die. And he says, you're going to die. And while that sounds morbid, we all have a certain time in our lives where we're going to face certain things, but while you're healthy and capable, we have to learn now is, do we want what we want now, or are we going to wait for it? Because it'll never just happen. In real estate, if you're not prospecting all the time, if you're not looking at ways to generate more lead sources, more streams of people, you're never going to have that flow and that funnel to keep your, hopper full of cash flow. And I think that's the big problem. We all starve of cash flow in this business. You do several transactions and you miss the boat. So let's take the first one with flex schedule. I think the first things with the flex schedule is I think we have no accountability to anybody. Because it says independent contractor on our license or wherever you want to justify in your contract, in your agreement, independent contractor, unfortunately, is you are self-employed and you have to hold yourself accountable unless you find someone else, whether it be a coach or an accountability partner. We can get up at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, decide to kick around on Facebook till 11, sign a few things, check the MLS, and by next thing we know, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've done nothing to make us money. And at the end of the day is we have to take this business by making money. My screen keeps freezing, but we're here. Thank you. Okay, people are piling in now, so not sure why it's freezing, guys. I'm going to save the recording and post it. Just streaming Facebook. I got a great connection here, so got to be good old FB. Thank you. So thanks, Lori. So I want to talk about the flex schedule. I think you could accomplish more in 3 to 4 productive hours, actually doing prospecting work and doing the productive stuff in probably 3 hours. Because I don't think a typical agent works 3 hours a day. And I'm saying typical, maybe not some of you here. But I'm talking about productivity work, stuff where you're talking to people, setting appointments. And just because you're doing things on a daily basis actively doesn't mean you're making money. So I want you to evaluate your day and take a quick look at everything that you're doing. Will it turn into an appointment, more appointments, and how many are you able to accomplish in one day? I think you could call yourself busy when you have too many appointments and too much income. Could that be a problem? Too much income and too many appointments, then you're busy. Other than that, your pipeline's not full enough. We can get into more of that in a second. I want to take the next one. Help people buy a little dream home and make a lot more money. I personally got into real estate from a selfish standpoint. I wanted to make a lot of money. I also saw the pipeline when I was, 20-something years old. I wanted to make a lot of money. Back then, and I don't want your opinions now because this could kind of blow up the stream. Back then, the big icon was Donald Trump when he was having his heyday. He had his books out. Whatever was going on back then, real estate was talked about as a high elite service, a high elite platform. So I got in to make money. Did I make a lot of money? Back in the early days, a lot of money was sometimes 40, 50 grand back in the 80s. That was a lot of money. Today, if you're not making, 200, 300, 400, 500, it's not a lot of money. Depends on your lifestyle. So you have to all put it in perspective. The challenge was, and I think the biggest challenge we have is, we're doing a lot of activities and none of them are leading us to the right goals. Most of us don't have a set of goals. We're not running it like a business. So I want to kind of take this from a different perspective and look at it as, all right, what drives you in the morning? So why did you really get into this? I think the selfish part is it was absolutely probably due to money and the thought of being easy. And if I asked you right now, is this business easy? What's most of your responses? Is it really easy? Most of you are going to say absolutely not. I had no idea what I was getting into. So I want to kind of share with you a little bit of a story. Hey Phil, how you doing? Share with you a quick story of how things you have to get motivated for certain things. And I kind of like to leverage it, and I'm going to use the word addiction. Believe it or not, I'm going to take a different spin on addiction. Kimberly's hell no. Right, this business isn't easy. And you almost wish you could tell some of the new agents, you don't want to scare them out of business because we need new blood, but we need blood that's willing to work and do the work that it takes to make the money. That's the problem, is there's too many of us getting caught up in technology. I'm a technology and marketing guy. It doesn't mean that drives our business. We have to realize that no matter where I go, where I walk, where I talk, every one of those people, everywhere I go, from the car ride from here to Dunkin' Donuts, from there to the shop right, wherever I go, 99.9% of those people live and own and rent a home, and they're my potential clients. And yet, the biggest problem we have, I think, in an industry is fear. It's fear. I don't want to talk to these people. I just don't want to, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to, I'm sorry, but that's our business. We are in sales. Every one of us in this business is in sales. And I can argue this till the day I die, is we are in a sales business. As a matter of fact, anybody in any company, no matter what your title is right now, you're in sales. Whether you like it or not, you are. You're part of the sales process. So I want to take you back to sales, to what drove me a little bit. For some of you that know a little bit about my story, is I started back in the 80s, and I started tying this word addiction right now. So the word addiction, we see as a bad thing. We see addiction as something that, Phil, is that a 3D hashtag? Oh, you like my hashtag? Yeah, right there. It's actually almost above my head, but it is. It's actually a lit hashtag. Lights up, but I think you can see it pretty clear now. Phil, I like that. You know what? You're afraid of poverty. That's a good fear to have. I'm afraid of going broke. And if any one of us in real estate hasn't had that feeling of going broke and closing that deal that can pay your bills from last month that we haven't paid yet, it's fear. Sometimes we don't have the balls to admit it. We're afraid of picking up the phone. We're afraid of talking to those people. And those who can do that really well and handle that fear will be successful in this business. So not that you have to be this bubbly, sparkly person, but usually those are the ones who don't care about talking to anybody, and those are pretty successful people. The other thing you have to realize is, if you're afraid to talk to people, you might not necessarily be wrong for real estate today. See, years ago, if you were afraid to talk to people and you were part of the sale and you weren't in sales, you weren't good for real estate. However, in today's world, with the way we structure our production and teams, you might really suck at talking to people, but you're really good at something else. Doesn't mean you're not right for real estate. And you have to kind of come to terms with that. If you can't go out on a listing appointment and solicit listings and get 3, 4, 5 listing appointments a week, you might not be right for that part of the real estate business. You might be part of somebody to team up with, like me, that wants to go out and get 5, 6, 8, 10 listings a week, and I need you to help me take off the other parts of my plate so I can go do more of that. It sounds like Lori and Scott have had some fear issues today that they've overcome. I want to go back to my addiction story real quick, because I think we look at addiction, I focus on that word, addiction being bad. A lot of us have known people that go through a bad addiction. So here's the premise of this. I want you to look at addiction from a different way. And let me explain. Most of us that have pain, regular pain, Wake up in the morning, something I feel like crap. Everything hurts. You take pills. Then you get to a level where pain gets worse. You take more pills. Pain gets worse than that, you get acclimated to that level of pills, you take more pills. Hence the level of addiction gets to a point where some people get to a level of pills and medications that becomes addictive. Same goes for smoking, same goes for alcohol, any addiction in the world. That's how it goes. It's the threshold gets comfortable. You accept it. You need a higher level. You go to that higher level. That higher level brings you less pain or somehow more joy or better feeling, because it's all about feelings and levels of pain, dealing with pain. Let's flip that a second. How about the addiction of success? How about being addicted to winning? And I'm going to share with you how, because it kind of happened to me in the little ways early on. I just never realized it until putting it in perspective. So back in the late 80s, I started in real estate. Spent about 6, 7, 8 years in real estate, then took a hiatus into the corporate world. And some of you know I got into the technology world, cellular world in the beginning days. And actually, I've got something here. 1994, for example. I'm going to show you something live here in a sec. 1994, got hired by a company in a sales capacity. Been in sales for a long time. 1994, Bell Atlantic Mobile, which is today Verizon Wireless. And I'll never forget, because I was dealing with ups and downs of real estate. I did really well as a young guy. I also felt the pain of that business really early on. We had no technology, so it was really true, straight up marketing, door-to-door people. So knowing the pains of not being able to pay the bills, maybe not pay the bills, I went into the corporate world for a bit. And I was in the sales capacity. And I'll never forget wearing my headset at Bell Atlantic Mobile, selling installed car phones, installing services, selling everything, right through to the internet part of the business, and saying to myself, if I could only, and this is crazy, it was 94, if I could only make $60,000 or $70,000 at this, I can't imagine making that kind of money. 60 or 70 grand, if I could only make, were my words. And as I took each call and tried to close each deal, making 40, 50 grand, going, if I could only make 60 or 70. To me, that was kind of a level of being pushed in a sales capacity. I set my own goals. Now, we had structure and management in the corporate world. Some of you come from it. We had accountability. We had goals. You made them. You did great. You lost them. You got your butt kicked. The accountability was insane. Actually, it was probably micromanagement, which I'm not a fan of. But I had somebody holding me accountable, and I had competitiveness on the floor. We went from probably 5 of us in the sales capacity to well over 100 in a year, which I helped also then manage and helped grow and took myself to a couple different levels. But in the meantime, I was just a sales guy. And I knew that if I wasn't top of that food chain, I wasn't happy. So we were pushed. So I went from that 40,000 with the addiction of, hey, if I make it for 60, 70,000, which then I hit, I'd be happy. I hit that threshold. Now you get comfortable at that threshold, 60, 70,000. Today it might be 200,000. And then it became addictive to me that I wanted to win more. And I constantly wanted to win more. I almost knocked over my coffee. To the point where now they started to offer, hey, not only are we going to be a top producer in our organization, we're going to start giving you bonuses, and we're going to start giving you high level of achievement, which we have in real estate. Now, I'm not a big fan of plaques. Matter of fact, every time I won some kind of contest, and I know my wife can attest to this, every time I win some kind of, President's Club, this, that, the other thing, just send me the plaque. Like, I was worried about making money. The plaque's cool. I love the recognition, but I don't have to go show up for that. That was kind of the ego days. So what changed my addiction? I went from the 40,000 to 60,000, got that level of addiction, if you want to call it, and wanted more. I wanted 80,000. And then I wanted this. I brought this in. I dug this up just for you guys. I don't know if you can see it. There's going to be a glare on it. So in 1994, that same year, I went from brand new kid on the block to, I don't know if you can see it, Bell Atlantic Mobile President's Cabinet. From the CEO of Bell Atlantic Mobile, straight to President's Cabinet. What did President's Cabinet get me? Not only it got me like a $10 or $15 or $20,000 bonus, the big bonus for me was it sent me to a fully week pay trip to Maui at the Four Seasons, being touted, back when money was really, really good, being touted as a champion. So that became an addictive level for me. Now I said, there is not a shot in hell next year someone's going to beat me out of this trip again. No way. So taking addiction from a bad word to a good word is absolutely what we have to look at in real estate. Now, To me, then, the goal became president's cabinet and everything else. How do I do more? How do I do more? And of course, we have to look at our levels, but I was held accountable. So I ask you this, and I'm setting up a loaded question for some of you guys. What's your president's cabinet? What's your one thing you're going to go do when you hit that level, whatever that level is? Most of you don't even have that level. Most of you don't have the level. Thanks, Judy. I shoot straight from the hip, but I'm trying to get into our heads because sometimes even someone like yourself that's just masterful at what you do, Judy, I know there's days, and I know there's days in my world that we need to kick each other in the butt. We do. We have those days. We all have problems, so the reality is we have to have what's your president's cabinet. And you've got to set that, or you'll just keep going on you'll churn and burn right out of the business. You've got to have something to shoot for, and when you hit it, you reward yourself with it. Most of us don't even have a real set of freaking goals. Most of us have no one to be accountable to. And I know some of us that might be listening to this, whether it's now or 6 months from now, because it's recorded, I'll post it. You're going to be saying to yourself, hey, you're going to look at your broker and go, hey, why don't you set up a president's cabinet for us so we can get a trip to Hawaii or whatever that is? No, you know what? You signed up to be an independent contractor. You signed up to be your own business. You Inc. You LLC. So guess what? It's on you to do that. Not your broker. It's not your broker's job. I mean, your broker might have awesome contests and they might do some cool stuff in culture, but the end game is you aren't hitting what you want because of you, not because of your broker or anybody else. So I don't care what level you are. Some of us have had the best years of our lives. Some of us had the worst. And I'll tell you, I shared a little story with somebody, I'm trying to think what event we were at. I think it was Inman, Chicago. We had some side chat going on, some really great people. And somebody asked me just straight up, what were some of your worst years? They just asked me. And being pretty transparent, I think what they were looking for is they were looking for some help. And they were just trying to see that there's no magic bubble out there. I think they needed to hear it from somebody else. And they just said to me, what were some of your worst years like? Well, I said, I had a couple different groups of worst years. But one I'll remember is, your first year I started, my average sale was probably $60,000 selling at, 15% interest rates. Maybe not my worst year, but crap. Pretty challenging year to figure that out. And then maybe 8-10 years ago, maybe it might have been when the market was dipping. And I told her straight out, I said, in the 1 or 2 years, I went through it, maybe it was longer, 15 years ago. My wife will probably correct me on these times. But talk about fear and all that crap. Went through bad divorce. The market was tanking. Owned 5, 6, 7, 8 investment properties, maybe more. My mom took ill for a year with cancer and passed away, all in 12 months. If that can't screw you up in the head, look, we all have crap. But somehow, and then he looked at me and he goes, well, how the hell did you get out of that? I go, it's not that you get out of it. You just kind of have to work through it. Sometimes you'll never think you're going to get out of that hole. Ever. But you sometimes do. You get out of it. You focus on stuff you got to get done. And, you got to still go. And you got to keep holding something up there to say, hey, I got to get to this level. Because as Gary Vee will say, you're going to die. So let's go through something now. So the bottom line is we have all this fear. We have all this crap. The problem is when we get stuff going on throughout our day, we get distracted very easily. I'll tell you that one of the biggest distractions, and most of you will admit to it, just probably not publicly, is social media is too distracting for most of us. We are like squirrel with social media. Somebody says something, somebody does something. I get caught in it. I'm not telling you I don't. I get caught up in squirrel. I get caught up in all sorts of stuff that distracts me for sometimes more than I want to be. We're also addicted too much to our mobile device, which I think sometimes is too much media absorption too, when we have to realize is asking ourselves, is that going to make me more money right now? And maybe some of the prep work and some of the information you're studying and the MLS work you're doing has to be done. But at the same time, we're not taking ourselves back to how many more appointments am I going to get? We lose that distraction because it's uncomfortable and it's fear. So we got to figure out how to get past that fear, guys. For those of you who need to hear more of this, you have to have someone hold you accountable. It sucks, but you got to. So find somebody. Let's see what we got here. A couple people making some comments. Yeah. So there's people that are talking about how do you get rid of fear as an agent? How do you get agents past fear? You got to let them hear sometimes the truth. Maybe they haven't been through some of this stuff. But if I ask them right now, and we have to put agents right on the phone right now, and we'll say, listen, how many appointments do you have this week? And at 5 o'clock today, just ask them, how many appointments did you make today? And if the answer is, well, I got busy, See, right there, you got to stop it. Don't wait 6 months, 8 months, 10 months for them to be struggling. It's too easy to be home on summertime vacation. Kids are off of school. I've got a boatload of them. I know. I'm running to lacrosse and this and that. But even when you're doing those activities, it doesn't mean you don't have balance. I could pick up listing prospects at lacrosse practice if I'm doing my job and I'm not a secret agent. I could pick up clients when I go shopping for some food at the closest food store if I'm doing my job. My job doesn't have to stop because I'm doing personal things. Our business is the most ridiculous personal business in the world. I could go pick up clients when I'm going to get my new coffee if I'm doing my job. Or I could be the type that goes and get coffees, come back and talks to nobody. That's probably some of us. Our customers are standing right there in line with us when we're getting that. So I'll ask you, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? So what are you going to do about it? Most of you don't have it. I want you to come up with what's your president's cabinet. What is it you're going to achieve, and when you hit it, you're going to do it. I don't care what it is. Find if it's $1,000, if it's $500,000. Are you going to buy another house? Are you going to buy a second home? Or are you going to go buy a gift? You're going to buy a new iPhone? Whatever it is, find your president's cabinet. That drove me to never, ever, ever want to lose again. Okay? I never lost it the first time, but I didn't want to give it up. That being said, I also would like to know what's the one or two things, and if you're not on this live with me, feel free to email me or hit me up on Facebook. What's the one or two things, honestly, that holds you back right now? Right now, what's holding you back from getting what you want? I'm going to wait, and I want to see some posts. Jeff Lobb Summer Camp. It is camp at my house, Scott. You got to see the nightmare. But I should have a summer camp away from my summer camp. So let's go. What's the one or two things holding you back? I don't care if you're a broker. Noel. I love you, Noel. It is. It's confidence. Noel, it's confidence for you. Damn it, you know that. What else? One or two things holding you back. Money, bullshit. Money doesn't hold us back. Money's just spending money. Not a nightmare, it's Disney World. Well, I could say money might hold you back a little bit to do certain things, but it takes what you have to do. Jane, I know. And you know I owe you time. I know. Time management? Lori, be honest. Time management? True. Yeah, we suck at time management, most of us. Again, it's too easy to get pulled in 100 directions, especially what you guys are doing down there, new brand, new opportunities, recruiting. Totally time management. But you have to ask yourself, is this going to help? You know, the other quick scenario I look at sometimes is the investment in your future stuff too. There's times you're going to have to, and I use this reflection to look very human with my young son, for example. He's a second grader right now playing lacrosse on a third and fourth grade team. Just break this out to sometimes how we look at things. So my second grader is playing on a third and fourth grade team. Honestly, you know, just because I have some kids that are super talented in sports and others that are super talented in music and others that just, you know, don't want to do any of this stuff, some in drama, whatever they want to do. You know, we put them in second grade. The poor coach, I feel bad for him because, you know, when you're dealing with second graders, sometimes it's like you're clueless. Thanks, Mark. Systems and structure. So here's my second grader, just clueless some days. Attention span of a gnat. And I'm watching coach, but I'm watching coach still spend the time with him. And I know he's a good coach because I come from a heart. That's what I like to do too. And I know what he's doing. This coach knows that he's kind of dealing with the frustration now. Think about this as some of your agents. And the frustration now of a second grader, but he's setting him up for next year when he's coaching him again as a third grader. And he's going to have a much better, more advanced player by dealing with the pain now. So sometimes you have to look at those people and say, am I worth investing time in you for the next 2 years? Think about the agents you have. Who are you spending your time with? If you're an agent, what customers are you spending time with? Two ways to look at it. As a broker, think about the top 5. Some of you might not even have 5. Top 5 people you're going to spend time with that in next year you're going to get a better return out of. As an agent, think about these 5, 6 buyers you're working with. Who are you spending time with on your Sundays? You have a choice, being with this buyer who's going to run you around for the next 6 years of your life, that's not qualified because you're hoping and poking that somebody's going to write a contract on something and you're never going to get it done, don't spend your time with those people. I learned a while ago, and this is something that took me a long time, is I would always have a hard time letting go of people that didn't want to be helped. And I worked for years for organizations, and I'll say that plurally, politically correct, that no matter how hard I did things and no matter how right or wrong I was, they didn't want to be helped. So I made a conscious decision that said this: I am not going to force myself to work with someone who doesn't want to help or not willing to do the work. I only want to work and partner. That doesn't mean, some of my clients have chosen me, but I've also chosen them too. That we're not going to work for each other. Yes, we have a contract and I might work for them and they might work for me. However it works out is we have to be willing to work together to accomplish a goal. And a lot of times it's never about me. It's about how am I helping them elevate? How do I help them?